Hello guys, this is Adebisi Daudu, known as Shalom as an author into the Living Beyond the Limit Program Module 1 Series 7. We'll be looking into the summary of the programs, objectives of the programs, and the overall objectives of the programs. And it reads in the summary: Living Beyond the Limit Modules program is based on faith building, spiritual growth, and motivations that will enable the recipient of the module programs on how to understand or having an understanding of the mechanisms that will enable them to live beyond the limits and limitations of life. They being imparted with the mechanism which are involved with the modules program will enable them to live beyond the limits and limitations of life. Now let's go to the objectives of the program summary. Say the imparted are emotionally self-sufficient using the program modules living beyond the limit to impart into the non-emotional self-sufficient. Also, there is the overall objectives of the program summaries, and it reads: say being emotionally self-sufficient is the beginning of creations and achieving destiny and purpose in life. In other words, let's look into the Module Series 7 objectives, outcomes, skills, and knowledge. And it reads: objectives. Candidate of greatness, everyone that participates in any competitions always have in his or her mind to be a candidate that will emerge to success. That's the objectives. Now let's look into the outcomes. So the candidate that emerges for greatness in the present or in the future race of competition, goals, dreams, or endeavors of life. That's the outcome. Let's look into the skills. It says instructors of godly candidates and instructors in endeavors of life. In other words, let's look into the knowledge. It says godly candidates and treasures of living rightly. Also, let's look into what the Series 7 has for us today, most programs. In the series back, I usually look into the recaps of the previous series. Now of 6. Now let's look into the previous recap of Series 6, and it reads: in the race of victories and success in life, there are many that participate, but few are the chosen. In other words, we have a Bible verse from the book of Matthew 5:6, and it reads: blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. In other words, now let's look what we have in today's content, Series 7. It reads: every candidate of greatness and achievers always display the goodness of God among others and in their endeavors. To be great and live beyond all limits and limitations in life are the treasure of living rightly and testing after the things of God. It says there are godly candidates that live in greatness and being an achiever and living beyond all limits and limitations. Also, there are the ungodly candidates that does not live beyond limits and limitations. In other words, every diligence to the obedience of God and testing after His righteousness are the divine stages or platform of qualifying to the abundance of God and living blessed in life. No matter the strength of your enemies or your haters, because you are on the platform of God, you will always defeat them and be overcome in life. Meanwhile, let's look into the other paragraphs of the content. It says godly candidates are candidates which live by the instructions of God and by his obedience. They are being led to every endeavors of their life through the instructions of God. Also, they love righteousness and they enjoy fellowship with their Maker. In other words, they are called blessed by their Maker because they imitate Him and live by His commandments. Who can cause the bless of the Lord? Nobody. I say to you today, you are blessed by the Lord. In other words, we also have the other part of the godly candidate and the ungodly candidate. Now let's look into the ungodly candidate. It says ungodly candidates are easily to identify and they always a target of all challenges of their enemies. Also, due to their ungodliness, living beyond the limit and limitations have always been mountainous challenges for them to achieve in life. There's a kind of a questions asking us, you the viewer this hour, are you a godly candidate or an ungodly candidate? Note, a godly candidate is a candidate that lives beyond all limits and limitations of life. Meanwhile, let's look into a kind of indications that indicate the end of the module program, which I've already mentioned in series back. Now let's look into the end of program module 7's end programs, and it reads: Module 7 gave viewpoints in different candidates, such as a godly candidate that are achievers. It says an achievers candidate always display the goodness of God among others and in their endeavors. At this point, we have a kind of a questions. I don't know, maybe you would like to ask me questions regarding to each series or this particular content, series 7. You can drop a comment or questions on my YouTube channel, which I can be able to deliberate and share more instances or more light on how you can achieve the success of living beyond the limits and limitations. At this point, we have a post assessment, and it's reads: have you gotten an understanding of being godly and being ungodly? 1, 2. Who are a godly candidate and an ungodly candidate? Let me say it again. Say who are a godly candidate and ungodly candidate. And the third one says, are you a candidate of greatness? With this post assessment, I hope we have gotten a kind of some informations and instances. Well, on my YouTube frames, you can find my website. On my YouTube page, you can find my website on the frames of my YouTube page, which you can click on the link that will take you into my website. By clicking on each books on the website, it will take you directly to the Amazon online store, which you can also kind of get more info of my books that will enable you to live beyond the limits and limitation. Thanks a lot. See you in the next video. Bye.